is because we're here to help you guys learn how to take care of yourselves. First and foremost, thank you very, very much for being here. Ultimately, we want you guys to understand that this is all about healing. Hey, Eric, just hand the sign-in sheet away. You can sit over there and we'll hand it out. But ultimately, you know, it's about health. Okay, it's not just about the aches and pains that you have, but the things that you guys can do to take care of yourselves. As a chiropractor, obviously, we approach through the structural integrity of the spine and how it affects the nervous system. Yoga plays right into that because yoga has been around for thousands of years. You could probably expound on that much better than I can. I see amazing results. My sister does therapeutic yoga down in North Carolina, and it is definitely something that you want to take a look at, and there are all different levels. So please understand that it's not just about your aches and pains and about stretching. Okay, it's about taking care of yourself and doing something good for yourself. So ultimately, Dawn has been really gracious in being here tonight. She's please give her all of your attention because she is taking time out of her day and her night to be here. She also teaches over at Sharing Yoga down in on Main Street. Yes, so she's an instructor there, and she knows Dr. Jenna, who used to work here, very well, and that's how we were introduced. So please, without further ado, I'm going to let Dawn take over.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
You're welcome.
Great introduction. And he's right, of course. It's all about taking care of yourself, and there are so many different means of doing that. But being here is a good step in that direction. So I'll introduce myself too, a little bit more about myself. But I'm Dawn, as Dr. Sam said, and I've been teaching yoga for about 7 years. And when I found yoga, I was going through a really difficult time in my life. I was going through a very difficult divorce, and I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't eating well, I had a little girl, a lot of anxiety about the past, the future, and so on and so forth. And when I stepped into the first yoga class, I felt comfortable, and then right away I started to experience the benefits of yoga. So at first, it was just a sense of feeling centered and calm, and just being present to the body and to the breath. And then, as I began a more regular practice, I started to notice more and more benefits. And that's one of the things about yoga, is that you could experience some of the benefits immediately. Some of them are short term, and then other benefits of yoga are, experienced more through like the long term. The more you practice, the more, and it's accessible to everybody. Like Dr. Sam said, it's not just about, aches and pains, but yoga does address a lot of aches and pains. But we'll talk about more of that as I go on. So I think it's great that Dr. Sam included a workshop on yoga, because it really does fit into leading a healthier life. So I did want to interact with you guys just a little bit before I start just blah 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 and talking. Just a show of hands, who's attended a yoga class? Anybody? Okay, so some people have taken a yoga class, and has anybody not taken a yoga class but practiced at home on their own? Good. Who has somebody in their life who practices yoga avidly and talks about it all the time and about how wonderful, wonderful it is? And what's the first thing, and you could just speak out, what's the first thing that comes to mind when somebody says yoga or you think about yoga? Stretching. Calm. Breathing, yes. Do you have your hand up? No. So all of those things are part of yoga. So one of the most obvious benefits of yoga is flexibility, because we talk about stretching and breathing and increasing flexibility. So in your first class, maybe you weren't able to touch your toes right away, or maybe you were. Maybe you weren't able to do a back bend right away, or maybe you were, but little by little, as you practice yoga, the body starts to respond, it starts to loosen up little by little. And inflexibility in muscles and connective tissue can contribute to poor posture over time. And that's when, if you're under chiropractic care, that yoga can be very complementary to it, and I'll talk about that a little more too as we go on. Another benefit is that it builds strength. Yoga postures, standing yoga postures, build strength in the lower body. They build awareness of where you are in space and how you're holding yourself. And everything starts with the feet, standing yoga postures, but it builds strength over time. Arm balances build strength in the core, and a lot of times people think about core as like the abdominal muscles, right? So people see people doing crunches and they focus on the core, but then a couple of things might happen. They might not stretch their core afterward, which is really important because muscles shorten over time if they're not stretched. But the back side of the core, the back muscles, and the muscles of the hips and the back they're all part of that core section, which creates stability. So yoga push-ups increase arm balance and so on and so forth. So there's different postures in yoga that target different areas of the body for strength. Yoga helps keep spinal discs healthy. So yoga movements encourage the discs to swell with water and then squeeze it back out, which is a necessary process in the exchange of nutrients throughout the spine, which is one of the ways that it can be complementary to your chiropractic care. Yoga helps to strengthen the muscles and build flexibility in the muscles that run along the spine. So there's this set of muscles that run lengthwise along your spine. There are other muscles in the back too, but those muscles, when they become tight, they begin to, over time, potentially restrict movement in the spine. And when movement in the spine becomes restricted, it creates an unhealthier environment for everything in the spine and in the back. Yoga postures are designed to improve posture and strength. So once Dr. Sam adjusts you and subluxations in the spine have been addressed or corrected, yoga can support that work that you're working with your chiropractor. Some yoga can increase aerobic capacity. So aerobic capacity is the body's ability to utilize oxygen, which increases athletic ability and how much activity a person can do without fatigue. So if you take a short little walk down the road and then you're really tired, then your aerobic capacity is probably dropping. Some yoga classes, if you go to a really gentle yoga class because you're drawn to it or that's what you have time for, or just because you don't have a lot of strength yet, that might not specifically increase your aerobic capacity right off the bat. But as you build strength and you maybe move into an all levels yoga class, then there are movements that do help with that. So, fifth benefit. Is anybody bored yet?
No.
All right. Well, if you have any questions at the end, I'll stay after class a little bit. So it helps to prevent injury, which we talked a little bit before class about. Tightness of the muscles, this is just a for instance, tightness in the muscles of the legs can contribute to knee pain and eventually maybe to injury. Tight hamstrings, which are the muscles along the back of the thigh, can contribute to a flattening of the lumbar spine or lower back pain. And the reason for that is because some of these muscles on the legs attach to the pelvis and it can pull on the pelvis, and that starts to create in a natural position of the back. And my husband had a situation with his knee. He was having a lot of knee pain and he'd wear a brace and he'd go hiking and then it hurt again, and he went through this cycle and he finally started seeing somebody for it. And one of the first things that this person said to him was, you need to stretch the muscles of your legs. You're really tight. So the inner thigh muscles are active. So those are, they affect the knee. So it can be injury preventive. It increases self-awareness. So through yoga, when you're in yoga postures they take the body out of the, our everyday movements. We have these repetitive movements that we do, and we're moving through the day, and we're walking, and we're sitting, and we're standing, and we're sitting again. Yoga postures bring the body into unnatural positions to target certain areas of the body to strengthen and to lengthen. And when that happens, when you do a posture on one side of the body with 1 foot forward or one leg out, or depending on whether you're standing or sitting or what you're doing specifically, right-left imbalances start to become evident, and you start to notice that one side, well, maybe my right leg, is a lot less flexible than my left leg. Well, what do I do about that? Well, yoga can address that. It teaches you how to spend more time on one side than the other. But if you don't even know that it exists, if that imbalance exists, then you don't know how to address it. So yoga has that double impact. It shows you where your imbalances are, where your weaknesses are, and then it teaches you how to address those things. So it also, as you're moving through a yoga class, if you sit down for, you come into a yoga class and you're there for an hour, You become much more aware of what you're thinking about because you have to be very present to what you're doing so that you don't hurt yourself. And you know, if any of you who have been in a yoga class, you'll hear probably the teacher say, focus on the breath, focus on the body, pay attention to the right foot. You know, they want you to do something with the right foot to help, you know, protect the knee, or all of those little things that help you keep you present. So it increases awareness on not just a physical plane, but also on a mental and emotional plane, and that grows as you practice longer. It teaches balance. So I think that's one of the things that, you know, we see the yoga postures with somebody, you know, standing on one foot and then arm above their head or whatever. Yoga increases proprioception, the ability to feel what your body is doing and where it is in space. So before I started practicing yoga, I never realized that I rolled to the outer edge of my foot. And I didn't realize that, you know, my left leg was tighter than my right. My left hip is tighter than my right. So it increases awareness of where you're holding yourself. When you start to learn a posture, even if you just start with one posture and you start to learn that posture, you're going to recognize, oh, my right shoulder's a little higher than my left. But it comes with time and it comes with consistent practice. So balance postures train the body how to balance and build awareness of how the gaze, the breath, and the strength contribute to the ability to balance. So what happens as we age? We lose the ability to balance, right? And then we fall and we become injured, and it's this downward cycle. So if you can start when you are whatever age that you are, when you start your first yoga practice, it helps to prevent some of that from happening right off the bat, because you teach your body how to balance. You build that muscle memory. You realize how important the gaze is. If you're standing on one foot and you turn your gaze suddenly to the right, you probably have to drop the other foot to the ground. So it teaches balance. It builds bone density through the need to lift and support one's own weight. This helps to ward off osteoporosis. So in yoga postures, it works with your own body weight. So you might be doing a yoga push-up, or you might be just standing. So you're supporting your own weight and you're building strength in that way. So anytime you're building strength and you're compressing muscle against the bone, it's helping to increase bone density. It relaxes the mind, body, and counter stress. So we heard that as one of the things that we think about when we think about yoga. So yoga encourages relaxation, the slowing of the breath, and the focusing on the present, which we talked about a little bit. And this is what I found very interesting when I started to learn some of this stuff, is that it shifts the balance in the awareness of your body from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. So what that means is it has a calming and restorative effect in the body. So even if you're working through a rigorous yoga practice, and then you lie in shavasana at the end with the body still and the eyes closed, it's going to your overall yoga practice has a restorative and calming effect on the body. It increases blood flow to different areas of the body. So there are different postures in yoga that specific or target different areas of the body to increase blood flow to those areas. And anytime you can do that, it has a positive effect on those areas of the body. It helps to drain the lymph and boost immunity. So the act of contracting and then stretching the muscles, moving the organs around, and moving into and out of postures increases lymph drainage, which supports the immune system. So that's not unique to yoga. There are lots of different exercises and different movements and therapies that can do that. Massage is one of them, but yoga is another way that you can tap into that. It helps keep the joints and cartilage healthy by taking joints through their full range of motion. So if I'm going through my day and I'm using my arms in a certain way, I'm not necessarily bringing my hands around my back and lifting my arms above my head in such a way, or rotating my arm that's increasing that mobility in the shoulder and taking the joint through the whole range of motion. Joint cartilage receives fresh nutrients. When its fluid is squeezed out, a new supply can be soaked up. So yoga movements aid in that process. And again, it's not unique to yoga, but it's one way that you can help that. It helps to regulate adrenal glands and lower cortisol levels. So what's cortisol, right? It's a stress response. So adrenal glands secrete cortisol in response to a crisis, which is a good thing in the short term. If cortisol levels stay chronically high because of perpetual stress, it has a negative effect on memory, linked to depression, osteoporosis, high blood pressure, and insulin resistance. And I can't get into all the ways that happens, but it's just because of the focus on the breath and because of the restorative and calming effect that yoga has, it helps to reduce all of that. It aids in the digestive process by facilitating more rapid transport of waste through the body. So twisting postures are particularly beneficial to elimination in the body and to increase digestive processes. Because they're the internal organs, of abdominal organs are kind of wrung out as you're twisting. And it helps to bring fresh blood flow to those areas as well. Brings a general sense of feeling centered. So this is what I hear a lot from people, you know, after class. They'll come into class, they'll be all frazzled, they'll be stressed out, they'll have a headache, you know, whatever it is, and then after class they feel, oh, I feel so much more centered. And it's something that is very difficult to explain unless you've experienced it yourself, but it is one of the benefits of yoga. This is one of my favorites. So it encourages self-care. So how many moms in the room? So what do? We take care of the kids, then we take care of, you know, a spouse or a partner or whatever, and husbands do. I mean, you're, you know, men, we all take care of somebody, whether it's a pet, a child, an elderly parent, we're all taking care of other people. So, and it's not in a sense that we want to be selfish, but it's actually the opposite of being selfish. It's taking care of yourself so that you can take care of other people. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of the people around you. So that's why it's one of my favorites, because I tend to neglect myself, I put myself last. And so yoga has taught me how to carve that hour out for myself, put myself on the mat, which takes a lot of discipline sometimes, because there are a lot of other things to do and a lot of other things that would take up time. So when you can take care of yourself, you're going to be around much longer and you'll be healthier to take care of those people that you care for. This is interesting too. When somebody starts practicing yoga, sometimes a doctor will send people to a yoga class and they'll say, you know, to recover from an injury or physical therapy, they've been through physical therapy and now they want to kind of continue on that path of self-healing. If you go to a traditional doctor, maybe they put you on a medication or something, and you become this passive receiver of care. And perhaps, you know, you're just treating the symptom, you're not really treating the source, and you feel yourself in this downward spiral, but you don't really know why. Yoga empowers you because it teaches you how to take an active part in that self-care process and the healing process, or whatever it is for you. Maybe it's, you know, something entirely different. Different things bring different people to yoga for different reasons. But that's one of the things that yoga teaches us. Self-nurture. And then it complements athletic training. Dr. Sam can attest this to. So the physical benefits of yoga, such as increased strength, flexibility, endurance, and balance, all the things we just talked about, they help to balance and counter repetitive motions of training. So somebody name a sport. Lacrosse. So what's a repetitive motion that you might do in lacrosse? Right, and usually it's the dominant hand or arm, right? This is doing the majority of the work, potentially, or not. But whichever arm that is, it's usually the same arm. So tennis is another one, right? Where you're using that same arm. A lot of people end up with like rotator cuff injuries, and then they're out, or a shoulder injury, or whatever it is. Runners end up with knee problems, or hamstring tightness, or hip. When you're running, you know, you're lifting your knees, so you're using these hip flexors here, these little muscles that run along the front of the hip to lift. And if you don't take the time to stretch them out, then they're going to become shortened over time. That's going to have a negative overall effect on the body. Repetitive motions in athletic training create imbalances in the body and tight muscles. Tight muscles are shortened muscles. So if you're bodybuilding and you're lifting weights, or if you're running, and any time you're strengthening a muscle, you're shortening it. So if you're shortening it, then you're going to have to lengthen it. If you don't lengthen it, it's going to start to pull on other areas of the body. So everything's connected, right? Everything's connected by connective tissue, and all the muscles are connected to each other somewhere along the way. So if one muscle shortens, it's going to start to pull in another area, create more of an imbalance. And yoga addresses that, of course. Imbalances in the body that are left uncorrected can lead to further imbalances and compensation by other areas, which further weakness and eventually lead to injury. Weaknesses in the body. So imbalances in the body creep into the body over time. We're all born fairly symmetrical, and then over time, you know, we're carrying a bag on the same shoulder all the time, or we're playing tennis, or, you know, we're doing the same things over and over, or perhaps there's an injury. An injury will cause a weakness in the body, which causes the other side of the body to compensate. So yoga can address all those things. And then it brings focus and awareness to the breath, which helps to calm the nerves, release anxiety, oxygenate body tissue, and expand the lungs. So if flexibility is the most commonly known benefit of yoga, the breath is the most important part of yoga. And it's also what distinguishes it from other forms of exercise. You know, you might have some awareness of the breath if you're running, and you know you've been taught how to breathe and how important it is to breathe. But with yoga, the emphasis really is on the breath, and that's what is unique to it, and that's what's so powerful from it. Because when you start to connect the movement and the breath together, it becomes meditative, and it becomes very a powerful experience. The breath is what takes the exercise beyond the physical plane to a deeper one. And I'm not talking, you know, Buddhism or spiritualism or, you know, anything like that. I'm talking purely on a mind, body, emotional, mental plane. It's something that can only be learned through experiencing it, and the overall effect is transformative. And it can eventually lead to other positive life changes. So when you start to practice yoga and you start to know what it feels like to feel good. So say you've been feeling tired for months or years or weeks or whatever it is, or you've been sick and you feel like you're perpetually sick and you don't even know, you forget what it feels like to feel good. It's like when you live with subluxations in your body, maybe you don't feel great, but you don't really know why, and you just get used to feeling it that way. Used to feeling that way, and then when you start coming for chiropractic care, then you start to feel better, and you get used to feeling better, and then you become aware of when you don't feel good. Yoga has the same effect, or a similar effect, from a different perspective. You start to realize, like, oh, my body can feel good, my mind can feel good, my emotions can feel good. I know what it's like to feel centered and not to feel scattered and to feel chaotic in my life. And then you want more of it, and then you're drawn back, and then all of that stuff starts to overflow into your daily life, and your relationships improve. I can attest to that. Anyone can experience the benefits of yoga. So like we were talking about before class, after here, oh, you know, I need to lose some weight first, or I'm too old, or I'm too tight, or I have tight hips, so I can't do yoga. Well, that's all of those things are why you need to do yoga. The older we get, the more we need yoga. You know, the more stressed out we are, the more we need to carve that time. You know, I don't have time, you know, and I know I don't have time to do yoga either. I make time to do yoga because it's important. Age isn't a limiting factor. I have everyone from teenagers, people in the 80s that come to my classes. I even have little kids before on occasion. The beauty of yoga is that it can be modified to fit everyone. So chair yoga. Chair yoga is beneficial to people who don't have a lot of mobility or a lot of strength, elderly people, so on and so forth, people that have had injuries. Although you might not want to step into an advanced yoga class in your very first visit, a gentle or all-levels class may be perfect for you. So because yoga offers many styles and postures, it can fit into almost any lifestyle and address a variety of health and fitness needs. So all yoga studios are not created equal. All yoga instructors are not created equal. Everybody's personality plays into how they teach. Everybody's background plays into the way they teach. I teach at a yoga studio where I have a very eclectic mix of yoga teachers. We're not all trained under the same style of yoga. So every class that you come to would be different. You know, so if you didn't like one, you try a different one. If you didn't like one instructor, you try a different instructor. But not just in my yoga studio, but like in all around, whatever town you're in. You know, there may be 2 or 3 yoga studios or whatever. If you go to a class, it doesn't suit you, try a different class, because there's a yoga class or a yoga style or a yoga DVD or whatever it is that's going to work for your lifestyle out there for everybody. And then the beauty, once you've learned yoga and you know the postures, your body will start to ask for it, you know, and it will recognize, and you'll find yourself just kind of moving into those postures because your body recognizes that it's beneficial. So we have 5 minutes. So should we, questions?
Please, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.
If anybody has any questions, yes. And if I don't know, I'll find out for you.
How often does it need to use instruction? Is it daily?
It can be daily, but it's not for everybody. Some people find that if they're practicing every single day, that they don't feel as much of a benefit, or they feel like they're overstretching. It's really very individual. Some people find 2 times a week is enough for them. Usually 1 time a week, you're just kind of maintaining, and you're not really gaining progress, and you're not seeing the benefits that you would if you practice 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. But you start with whatever. I have a private client who had no yoga in her life at all. She had just been through a horrible divorce. She's living on her own. She's going through this transition phase, and she does, like, I gave her a 10-minute routine and a 20-minute routine, and she does one or the other of them like 3 times a week. And now she's ready to start to move into maybe like a 40-minute routine. But you start with what's reasonable to you and what's realistic to you. Because if you say, I'm going to practice 1 hour, 5 times a week, and you can't do it, then you're gonna get, like any other form of exercise, you get frustrated and you get discouraged and then you don't do it at all, so it's really individual. But, 3 times a week, I would say is ideal to get the full benefits, and then you're gonna see progress. And that's one of the lovely things. I have a gentleman who's been coming to my yoga classes for years, probably 6 or 7 years, and he's now 74, 75 years old. And when he first started, he was so tight and so inflexible and not strong. And I've been able to watch him over the years, and his body has transformed. And he practices twice a week, so it's really individual. Thank you. Anybody else? Dr. Sam?
Well, obviously, from my standpoint, I think of it from the proprioceptive or the balance. And I think that someone doesn't identify that until they do some of the postures. For being a triathlete, I've gone in and, I've lifted heavy all my life. And I noticed it when I tried doing some of the postures, having 3 knee surgeries and those types of things. But having said that, there are different types of yoga. There are different names. There's like the Bikram, the Ashtanga, all the different,
Styles.
the different styles. Could you give a brief, I know there's a lot to that, okay,
Yeah.
but could you give a brief synopsis
Yeah.
of what may work for some people and what may not,
Absolutely.
of the different styles? Because that's, I think, really intriguing, because I don't think people realize that there's that many styles.
There's so many different styles, and even, like I said before, within a studio. So there's Ashtanga yoga. So Ashtanga yoga is the same set of postures every time. It's a very intensive practice. If you Google it or look for a book on it, you'll find it's the same sequence of postures every time. So there are sun salutations at the beginning, which are really rigorous, a lot of movement, a lot of breath and movement connected, and then a lot of standing postures, and then there's balance postures, and then there's seated postures, and then there's back bending and inversions at the end. And it's about an hour and a half practice. And then there's Bikram yoga, which we talked a little bit about in the beginning class, which is very hot yoga. So it's about 108 degrees, I think, in the room. So they advise you to come in and you spend the first few minutes acclimating, just to lay down on your mat, sit down on your mat, and acclimate to the heat. And that's the same set of postures, and it's more, there's not music playing, it's just an instructor talking, and it's kind of regimented. I've heard people who have family background or themselves in the military, and they find it resonates with them because it's familiar, because that's kind of like a militant style of speaking and talking to people. And it's very hot, which some people feel is detoxifying to them because they feel like the toxins leave through their sweat. And I don't know if there's anything to that or not, but that's what they feel like. Hatha yoga, some people will ask me, well, what's the difference between Hatha yoga and Ashtanga yoga? Well, Hatha yoga is the practice of physical yoga. So again, spirituality and all of that stuff aside, Hatha translates most purely to left-right. So Hatha, left and right sides of the body, front and back of the body. So anytime somebody's practicing Hatha yoga, they're moving through yoga postures or asanas. So asana is a Sanskrit word, and all it means is posture. So sometimes you'll hear, Ardha Chandrasana or, Trikonasana, and those are all just Sanskrit names for postures, because Sanskrit was the ancient language that these postures were originally taught, and they've all been translated to English. So a yoga studio like mine doesn't necessarily have a style of yoga. It's an eclectic mix. It's going to be a little bit different. Everybody has a different background. We have one woman who, trained in India, and we have another person who trained in Florida. I trained in Concord, so we have all different. So we don't have a particular style. Is there another yoga style that you were thinking of?
I was just wondering if there was benefits to certain styles to certain people, because I've done yoga nidra, which is very, very very gentle, but it's also very, very meditative.
Yes.
It works more on the mental aspect of it, and so there are different. I just wanted people to understand that there are different styles to it, and I guess it depends on how you're trained and what's going on from there. Because I know we have the yoga here too with Up to You Fitness a couple of nights a week, but then you have a studio like yours, which has a myriad of different people teaching. And I think it was important that people understand that it's not just, okay, you go in, and my understanding was Ashtanga and some of the others are just very, very very, very strength oriented, as opposed to, is there like a flowing type of yoga which is more?
Shakti flow. So Shakti flow is a lot of movement. Different people with different constitutions, if you will, are drawn to different things. So some people are drawn to yoga with a lot of movement and a lot of flow and a lot of breath work, and other people are drawn to more, regimented styles like Bikram, where it's really hot and you're, being yelled at. Not really being yelled at, but it's very militant. But you have to find one that's right for the yoga nidra. If you can find a new yoga nidra that's accessible to almost everybody, because it is very, if you are type A personality and you don't know where to start, you might find a yoga nidra class. It's very beneficial to you because it helps to counter that and brings you back to balance. And it starts to introduce you to some of the yoga postures. Even just sitting in a cross-legged position on a prop can be helpful to opening up the hips and the legs and the lower back. And you might not do a lot more than that in a yoga nidra class. You might do a lot of breath work. So the breath work is important to people who want to address certain things. Different breathing techniques can address different things. So there's energizing breath work, there's calming breath work, and you will find that in different classes. And there are also styles of yoga that are very spiritually oriented. And they're talking about, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
A lot more than the physical practice of yoga. So it really depends on what you're looking for. There's chair yoga. I mean, I had this lovely lady who just went through our teacher training program, because I'm also involved in our school, so we have a teacher training program, and I help to train the teachers who are going to be teaching. And one of them, she was so excited. She came in the other day and she's like, I just got a chair yoga gig, and she's so excited to teach chair yoga because that's what she wants. She wants to help people, and she's who might not otherwise be able to get to a yoga class. A lot of yoga classes, especially in Concord, like up and down a bunch of steps, and not a lot of people. There are a lot of people who can't do steps like that. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want people to understand that they have to. One of the things, first off, let's give her a big hand because that was amazing. I think one of the big things that Dawn brought up was setting yourself up to win. Don't go out and do an hour and expect to have these amazing results in an hour of doing something and then say, oh, this isn't for me. We always talk about doing, just going for 8 or 10 minutes a day and doing something to get yourself physically active for 8 or 10 minutes a day and setting yourself up to win, because it's important. And there are many studios. There are many studios in downtown. Like I said, I know Michelle has a couple of people here, and I try to get here. And it is carving out the time to take responsibility for yourself, because ultimately the things that she's talking about for you, for all of you that have been here to workshops before, doesn't it sound similar to what we talk about? It really is. Oxygenating, making sure you're proprioceptively balanced, making sure you're finding out the imbalances that are going on in your body. It's important that this all comes into play together. So please, if you have any questions, I'll ask you to leave some cards and stuff in case people are interested. If you have any questions for her, please don't be afraid to ask. Just if she's here not in the capacity of being a teacher, I would ask you to leave her alone. Okay. But if you want to talk to her outside. But obviously, as a teacher to other yoga instructors, it's very important she knows what's going on. And it is, the constitution for each individual is different. My sister does Ayurvedic type stuff, and she's certified in that, and it all goes on what your constitution is. So find what works for you. Okay, don't be afraid to try it. Don't think it's, there are a lot of athletes, male athletes, my size, that are starting to do yoga and understand it. But they do it from a much more regimented standpoint, a very egotistical standpoint. And then there is the yoga that we were talking about, the yoga nidra, which I've done, which is very, very mental aspect of it. It's very, they focus on the breaths and some of the stuff that's more gentle. So you have to find what works for you. Don't be afraid to go into a studio and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out which studio to go to.
and ask for a class or something of that nature, because most of them will allow you to sit in on something to learn what it's about. So please, thank her for being here, because she was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being a great listening audience.
All right, so we're done. Unless, go ahead, Katya.
I have a need to know that if you're going to start, how do I start, what is the lessons, how we can get up, what is the best